YouTube? It's your boy Johnny, back in here with another reaction video. And today, a little switch up. We got a video from Mr. Victor Davis Hanson. And we're going to talk about the failures of globalism. This video comes from Hillsdale College. I don't know if you've heard of that. A lot of intellectual, well, I don't even want to say intellectuals because that term has just been hijacked. So I don't even know what they smart people who know what's going on about the new order and the 2030 agenda, all that stuff. I don't know what term to use nowadays because the experts and intellectuals, everything has been hijacked and changed. So they just people who kind of smart. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. If you could hit the like button for me, and if you could consider subscribing to the channel. The goal is to reach 1 million subscribers, but if we can reach 100 million subscribers and start 100 million thought-provoking conversations, we kill all the narratives that are floating around in the world today. We're just spirits encased in human flesh trying to figure out this thing called life. We don't hate Joe Rogan. So if you like what you hear in the video, please share it far and wide.
What is the United Nations going to do? And the answer is they can't do anything. In the ancient world, Socrates, of all people, said that he was not a citizen of Athens alone. He was a citizen of the world. Our term cosmopolitan comes from that concept, that he had affinities with all the city-states and indeed with all the people in the world. In a very cynical fashion, when Alexander the Great in the latter 4th century BC, at the demise of the city-state, went into Asia Minor and then on to conquer the Persian Empire, he needed a propaganda talking point, and one of it was he was going to usher in what he called the brotherhood of man, a new ecumenical idea that whether you were Persian or Greek, you were a human. It sounds wonderful, but the idea was that enlightened rulers from the Hellenic world would spread their superior civilization all over the world. And it didn't last very well. In Roman times, Romans being far more practical, they didn't talk about globalization as much as reified it. They made it concrete. But immediately there were voices within Rome that said the further a sovereign nation expands and globalizes, the more difficult it is to maintain the solidarity of the people, the purity of the original founding concepts. The more we think we're making people into Romans, the more they think they are making us into other peoples other than Romans.
America 2.0.
One of the problems that globalists or cosmopolitans learned very early in the 20th century during the progressive movement was when you surrender sovereignty to these international bodies, then who is the police? Who polices the police? So the League of Nations, which was envisioned under Woodrow Wilson's Versailles agenda, for a very brief time seemed to be successful in adjudicating international disputes of trade or jurisdiction or borders until Adolf Hitler or the Japanese militarist or Joseph Stalin said, I don't need to listen to you.
This dude is smart.
And so World War II doomed the first incarnation of a united group of nations, the League of Nations. After World War II, the same suspicious idea resurfaced with the United Nations. But this time we were going to have a Security Council, and they were going to be the world's top powers, the strongest, the most successful. And then they could be the enforcer. But the problem, of course, was that very early on, the Soviet Union was not the solution to the problem, but it was the problem itself. Because there's always going to be some country who's powerful by breaking the rules and going beyond its own prerogative. In other words, China.
I was just about to say
so the
China.
problem is not today Mussolini of Italy or Hitler of Germany or the Japanese militarists of the 1930s, but it's an aggressive, communist, autocratic, and anti-democratic China that has currently 1.5 million people in camps. And yet they're on the United Nations, and they're a citizen of the world. And if the United Nations would decide that the Chinese, contrary to the UN Charter, are putting people in concentration camps, or they're harvesting organs from people deemed not necessary, or they're forcing people to have abortions that don't fit their idea of family planning, or they're bullying their neighbors, or they illegally created a base in the Spratly Islands, what is the United Nations going to do? And the answer is they can't do anything. In 2020, we saw an international pandemic, and our United Nations Charter Medical Organization.
I just had to pause that. China was forcing their citizens to get abortions. You know what I mean? How many women were probably sad, crying, heartbroken? And here in America, we have women celebrating abortions. It's celebrated to kill your own child here in America. We got a lot of things to fix because I don't know many men that would celebrate their child losing their life. Hell, and I as a man, if you're not around your child, you're a deadbeat, you're a bum, you're a loser, you're on child support, you need to be in jail. But if you're a woman, my body, my choice. Hypocritical.
The World Health Organization warned us from the very beginning, do not issue a travel ban against China. And then we learned that the World Health Organization was essentially parroting or mimicking what China wanted. And why did they do that? Because of Chinese money and Chinese pressure. This is not an aberration. It's inherent in the idea of global governance that there is always going to be strong powers who have agendas that are not global in scope, but they're national and sovereign. But if all the other countries in the world surrender their sovereignty and one powerful nation doesn't, then they have to come up with a mechanism of collective defense. And so far in the history of man, that's never worked.
That's never worked in the history of man. Never worked in the history of man. And videos like this are very informational. The world needs to hear this because we're arguing about, is Joe Rogan racist? And China is operating on a totally different level. The metaverse is coming out. Elon Musk is trying to figure out ways to get to Mars, and they keeping American citizens dumbed down, arguing over things that's not important. Information like this should be taught in every high school, every college, not gender studies. like I said, but they've made Americans over-medicated, undereducated. And until we take our brains back, because where attention goes, energy flows. And everything in life is built to steal your attention. That's your currency. Attention is the highest current form of currency we have because time isn't replaceable. Take your attention back and start reading, start studying. You'll be surprised what you learn. Just listen to your intuition. You don't even need to read and study. Just turn the TV off and sit still with no distractions from the external world. And things will start clicking to you. As I've said, man, I'm a firm believer that everyone thinks, but no one thinks. Mental activity isn't thinking. A few books that go along with this that a lot of people should read is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And another one is Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. See, all of this division is all a play to get rid of capitalism and usher in something that's going to enslave all Americans. Do I think everything about capitalism is great? No. But also, I was able to go from a homeless shelter to living a life of my dreams, to know $1 million is coming my way, that I'm gonna be a young millionaire. I am a young millionaire, taking care of my family, taking care of my wife, taking care of my community, looking out for the people around me. So I don't live in this idea that we're ever gonna have a utopia, but I do live in the world that every man has life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And there is no white boogeyman stopping me. And if there's not one stopping me, then I would assume there's not one stopping anyone else in the world. That's just my assumption. But until you take full accountability for your life, what Carl Jung say? Until you make the unconscious conscious, you'll repeat it over and over again and call it fate. James Allen said a man's brain is literally a garden. So plant positive seeds. Plant seeds of abundance, seeds of wealth, seeds of health, seeds of prosperity. Seeds of unity. Because if we don't, China is going to smack us. Hey, share this video far and wide. Very informational. Thanks for everybody to tune into the channel. Keep speaking your truth, man. The more you speak your truth, no matter how uncomfortable it makes people around you, you enlighten others to speak theirs as well. Until next time.